Question: what are you going to do with the rest of your life? What's your purpose? Well, if you're tongue-tied or you're feeling like a deer lost in the headlights right about now, fear not. You're not alone. Did you know that there are 151,928 books on Amazon right now about how to find your purpose? Why that many? Because we're all looking for that thing that makes us get out of bed in the morning and thrust ourselves with passion into another 24-hour space in this broken world. But getting clear on what that thing is has stumped some of the greatest minds on planet Earth. But when you find your purpose, it changes everything. It changes the way you approach your time, your finances, your friendship, in fact, your entire life. Now, on the upside, a clear purpose, along with the courage to follow through, will greatly increase your chance of coming to the end of your life satisfied. And that's true of every human being alive. But for those of us who are Jesus followers, our lives are intended to honor God. So there's always going to be this perpetual hole inside our soul until we discover why we're taking up space on this beautiful planet. High school students and college students are going to wonder, what are we going to do with our lives once we get out of this place? Young adults will wonder how to find meaning in the mundane of the 9-to-5 world that can be a crucible for sure. 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds are going to wonder if there's more to life than kids' sports, meetings, and paying the bills. Empty nesters will wonder how, after all the hits life has thrown at them, are they going to find the strength and the purpose for their final days? And here's what I know about you. I know I've not met a lot of you, but I would still say this is true about all of us. If we have 6 years left or 60 years left, we all want to join the Apostle Paul's sentiments and say, I fought the good fight. I finished the race that was marked out for me. And I know you might think, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say, but if you saw the setbacks, the disappointments, the pain that are in my world, you'd understand why I'm not all jazzed about this idea of purpose. Yeah, I get it. Life's hard. We're going to hit that in a few weeks. But here's what I also know. There's 2 types of purpose that are always at work in your life, and you need to know what they are. Your purpose that is now and your purpose that is forever. You see, your forever purpose never changes. Your now purpose will change multiple times and sometimes without warning. You see, your forever purposes are actually like stenciled over every now purpose and role that you take on. For example, I'm a child of God, and that's a purpose that's never going to change. However, my now purpose of being a youth pastor, I thought that would actually be a forever purpose. But I did that for 10 years, and it was an adrenaline-soaked adventure, and it changed me and hopefully blessed a few other people as well. But that purpose changed from being a youth pastor to being a college pastor and now a lead pastor. And I don't know what God has in front of me for the rest of my life. You don't either. But I'm well aware that if I stay attached to my forever purposes, He'll continue to make my now purpose clear, though it might take a hard-fought fight to get there. So, in order to make the most of this journey, your leader is going to give you or send you a mission statement packet. Consider it your personal purpose packet. When I was 20 years old, I was given a challenge to write out my purpose using something just like this. And I tend to resist these things, but I had no choice in the matter, so I did it. And I learned something invaluable in the process. Everyone ends up somewhere, but some people end up at their somewhere on purpose. It takes some intentionality to live a life of purpose on purpose. So in order to make the most of these 40 days, I really want you to work through these pages, even if you've done it before. And in a few weeks, you're going to share some of your findings with your life group. So be sure to take that time seriously. And our prayer is that this will be a tool to get you clear on what your purpose is. So before we do anything else, I believe we have to get clear on our forever purpose before we get clear on what our now purpose is. Because if you figure out your now purpose and never get clear on your forever purposes, your now purpose ends up turning up empty and shallow. And so for those of you who are sitting there going, oh great, I can't wait. I want to be clear on my now purpose. Just a little disclaimer, I can't guarantee that you'll have it nailed down 40 days from now. But I can guarantee you this, if you get clear on your forever purposes, your now purpose will start making sense and start becoming clear. In order to get clear on what our ultimate forever purpose is, we need to actually go backwards. Let's go back to 3 words Jesus spoke to a handful of people thousands of years ago. I really don't think that any of us fully understand in our Western context the power of these words. And you've heard them a lot, but think about it through this brand new lens. Here they are. Come, follow me. Now, these words were weighty, and they meant something to those in this Jewish context in which Jesus lived. Because in those days, it was so common for 14, 15, 16-year-old boys to finish up school and have a rabbi who was a teacher, master, great sage, and he would come in and he would find a pupil to invest in. He would look at that young man and say, come, follow me. And this was a great privilege, but it came at a great price because you had to leave your family, walk away from friends, give up the predictable norms in order to stay in close proximity to this one rabbi. And your goal during that time was to absorb every single thing you could from that rabbi. There's an old Jewish saying that says, find a rabbi, drink in his words, and be covered in his dust. The indication was that you needed to be so close to your master that as he walked along the road, the dust of his sandals would kick up on you. Or if you were sitting in a circle soaking up his wisdom, the dust of his feet was literally getting onto you. And therefore, the very dust of his revelation, his life, his thoughts, his heart were being thrust onto you to change you forever. It's almost as if a disciple in those days could see his rabbi off in conversation or handling a difficult scenario, and he would be compelled to run over and interrupt and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've got to be over there because how can I know how to handle the difficult scenario if I don't see how my master is going to do it? Maybe he'd ask a question like, how can I be like you if I'm not in close proximity to you, if I'm not hearing how you talk and how you think, if I'm not covered in the dust of who you are? How can I imitate you? In that spirit, Jesus said these words in Luke chapter 6, verse 40. A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. So the disciple studied the teacher in order to become like the teacher. So maybe now you can understand even more so that famous verse that Paul gave us in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. He said, we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Now, a lot of times in that verse, we focus on the first two parts. God works all things together for our good, and we should love him. But what about that last phrase, according to his purpose? The next verse, Romans 8:29, actually speaks to what that purpose is, and it is to become like his son, Jesus. It says, for God knew his people in advance, and he chose them to become like his son, so that his son would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. In other words, to be imitating Jesus, to be like Jesus, to drink in his words, and to soak up his dust. The Jewish word for disciple is talmidim. It means one who is to look like their rabbi. So our ultimate purpose, our forever purpose, is to be like Jesus, to be one who responds to his invitation, come, follow me, and to be his disciple. Now, let me just speak to those of you who may feel that you've grown a little distant in your faith recently, or you're even wondering, hey, this is great and all, but he's not here to let me get the dust off of him, and I got to go to work tomorrow, so what do I do with all that? What I would say is, if you want to be covered in the dust of your rabbi, then be covered in the word of your rabbi. John chapter 1 says this, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. So here's what it's saying. Jesus was the Word of God. He just had skin and bones on. So the way you get to know Jesus and touch his heart is by hearing his words. So my challenge for every one of us is over the course of the next 40 days, let's be people who read his word every single day and then make one intentional decision. I will not allow distance between me and my rabbi. Sometimes pain causes distance. Sometimes confusion causes distance. Sometimes frustration causes distance. And sometimes our own laziness causes distance. Whatever it is, my prayer is that you will make one purpose-filled decision right now. I will be covered in his dust at the end of these 40 days. Because if so, I believe you'll be able to say, I'm becoming like him. And that's the ultimate purpose of your life.